Hello, Pewter people. Scott Reynolds here with another Pewter Pulse. General Manager Jason Licht has built Tampa Bay's offense into a juggernaut. The Bucs ranked fourth in scoring this past year in Liam Cohen's first season as offensive coordinator, averaging 29.5 points per game. And Tampa Bay finished the season with 502 points. That's just 9 points shy of the all-time record of 511 scored during the team's 2021 season with Tom Brady and company when they finished 13-4. But we all know that the Bucs defense needs to be repaired, rebuilt, reloaded, retooled. That's going to be the focus of today's Pewter Pulse and Jason Licht's offseason. But first, a reminder, hit the thumbs up button, give us a like. Also, leave a comment. Love reading the comments. And doing those two things, it helps us with the YouTube algorithm. You guys have played a big role in helping grow this Pewter Report TV channel on YouTube by doing those two things, and we greatly appreciate it. So please leave a comment and hit the thumbs up button. Okay, let's take a look now at what Jason Licht has to do to get Tampa Bay's defense back to a championship level like it was in 2020 and 2021. The good news is that Jason Licht is the right man for the job. He used every avenue available to build that Bucs Super Bowl defense a few years ago. He signed linebacker Levante David to multiple contract extensions leading up to the Super Bowl. He traded for a premier pass rusher and Jason Pierre-Paul in 2018. He took a flyer on a sleeper free agent in Shaq Barrett in 2019. And he sent shockwaves through the Bucs fan base, cutting popular defensive tackle Gerald McCoy, a six-time Pro Bowler, and making a big free agent splash with Ndamukong Suh as his replacement. Licht also used the draft in building that Super Bowl defense. The entire secondary, which consisted of cornerbacks Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean, and Sean Murphy-Bunting, as well as safeties Antoine Winfield Jr., Jordan Whitehead, and Mike Edwards. Well, all those players were drafted over a 3-year span from 2018 to 2020. Inside linebacker Devin White was the first overall pick for the Bucs in 2019, and Vita Vea, the defensive tackle, was the first rounder in 2018 and became a Pro Bowler. The good news is that the Bucs already have some foundational pieces in place on defense. Tampa Bay has two great defensive tackles in Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey, and a good one in Logan Hall. Kancey led the team this year with 7.5 sacks. Vita Vea had a personal best with 7, and Hall really came on and had a career-high 5.5 sacks in his third season in Tampa Bay. While Diaby's sack total dipped from 7.5 sacks as a rookie to 4.5 last year, Yaya Diaby had a career-high 65 pressures. That ranked 9th among edge rushers last year in the NFL. At linebacker, the team is waiting to see if Levante David will retire at age 35 or if he's interested in coming back for another year. But there's no doubt that the Bucs need to move on from KJ Britt. He's just not a starter. And they need to find two speedy, athletic linebackers that can cover as well as tackle and blitz the quarterback. Servacio Dennis showed a lot of promise in his first 4 games this season, getting a sack on Jaden Daniels in the season opener. And he was good in coverage. He was likely going to supplant Britt as a starter before a shoulder injury ended his season prematurely in week 4. The Bucs have Dennis penciled in as a starter, but they need to flood this position in the offseason in both free agency and the draft. In the secondary, the team has grown tired of Jamel Dean's inability to record interceptions and stay healthy. Dean missed 4 games due to injury in 2023 and 5 games this past season. Plus, he's logged just 1 interception over the last 2 years. Don't be surprised if the Bucs move on from Dean this offseason the way they've moved on from Carlton Davis last year. Tampa Bay can also use an upgraded safety. Antoine Winfield Jr. missed 8 games due to foot and knee injuries, and those injuries robbed him of effectiveness this past season. But Winfield was a consistent playmaker for 4 years before his contract extension. So count on him coming back in 2025 with a vengeance. The other safety spot is a big concern. Jordan Whitehead is entering a contract year in 2025, but did not play well at all in his return to Tampa Bay. Outside of maybe the Detroit game in week 2, Whitehead suffered broken vertebrae in his neck in a January car accident, and the team absolutely cannot view him as a starter entering the 2025 offseason. Bring him to camp. If he recovers from that neck injury, let him compete. But the Bucs need to find a better safety in free agency or the draft, or perhaps both. Mike Edwards, Christian Izien, Kayvon Merriweather, they're not really starter material either. Zion McCollum emerged as a quality starting cornerback in 2024, but must be more consistent in coverage and as a ball hawk. He fell 4 interceptions short of his 6-pick goal this year. Nickel cornerback Tyke Smith made some splash plays as a rookie and looks like a future star, but he missed 4 games due to injury, which disrupted his first year in Tampa Bay. Still, he's a keeper and a promising player for the future. So let's take a look at the Bucs starters on defense in 2025 as I see it right now. This team is set at defensive tackle, but could use another good one for depth and development as Logan Hall's entering a contract year. Tampa Bay needs an alpha edge rusher opposite Diaby in case Chris Braswell is slow to develop or just doesn't pan out. Pencil in Servassier Dennis, and even if linebacker Levante David returns, the Bucs will need to draft his eventual replacement and get another veteran starting caliber linebacker just in case Dennis struggles with injury again. In the secondary, it's time to move on from Jamel Dean, who has the 7th highest cap value entering the 2025 offseason at $15.1 million. The Bucs can save $8.3 million by cutting or trading Dean. Finding a starting cornerback to play opposite Zion McCollum is an offseason priority. And given the team's lack of quality depth with Bryce Hall in injured reserve since week 1, and who knows if he'll be back, and the struggles of Josh Hayes and Tyreek Funderburk, this whole cornerback position needs to be blown up and rebuilt from the ground up, with the exception of McCollum and Smith. Then find another stud safety to play next to Winfield, and then upgrade the team's depth there. Merriweather and Izien, they're fine to return as reserves, and the team has some young, talented practice squatters and Marcus Banks and Rashad Wisdom. Bring them to camp and see how they fare. But this team needs 1, if not 2 more starting caliber safeties, just in case Whitehead can't come back from that neck injury or if he struggles again. The Bucs offense is deep and talented at a lot of positions. The running back room is the envy of the league. Tampa Bay's offensive line is young and remarkably talented. There's no position that Jason Licht drafts better than the offensive line. Maybe draft another guard on day 3 for depth to compete with Elijah Klein and re-sign Ben Bredeson for another year, especially if Robert Hainsey doesn't return in free agency. Tampa Bay should re-sign Chris Godwin, and I believe they will. And they could use another wide receiver in the middle rounds to bolster the team's depth there in case of injury. And let's not forget, Mike Evans will be 32 in August, and Chris Godwin turns 29 in March. It's never too early to start thinking about their eventual replacements and creating more depth at the receiver position. Yet, even if all the draft picks this year are used on defensive players, I'd be fine with that. I think most Bucs fans would too. I've used the term flood the position before when it comes to doubling up in the draft in prior years. And Jason Licht has thought along those same lines, and he's done that at several positions in a couple of drafts. Now Licht needs to take that approach to free agency and the draft. Trade for a big-time pass rusher or sign one in free agency? Sure. But then flood the position with another premier pass rusher in the draft just to be sure. It's okay if Chris Braswell is outside linebacker number 4 in his second year while he develops. Sign a free agent inside linebacker to start. Then draft another one with a premium pick. Find a starting caliber cornerback in free agency. Then draft another one on day 2, or maybe another one on day 3. Maybe draft a pair of safeties instead this year. Just flood the defense, Jason. You know. Double up at every position of need, and the Bucs will not only be Super Bowl contenders in 2025, they just may be Super Bowl favorites coming out of the NFC. Well, you guys have made Pewter Report TV one of your favorite stops for Bucs video content on YouTube, and we greatly appreciate it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and leave us a like and a comment. We greatly appreciate that too. I'll have more Pewter Pulse videos all off season long. And of course, the Pewter Report podcast come at you 4 times a week, daily at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Pewter Report TV. You can follow us on X, Facebook, and Instagram at Pewter Report and pewterreport.com. The mothership has all of the Bucs stories, articles, and columns that you need to read to get up on the off season this year in Tampa Bay. And I'll be back soon with the new Pewter Pulse.